Handoff Adrian up the middle, room to the 20, cuts to the left to the 25, and Adrian's loose! He splits the defense! 50, 40, 30, goodbye, baby! Touchdown!
We bleed purple, and our bones are gold. Hear the horns coming out of our dome, behold. We are Minnesota Vikings fans. We love when a player scores, we roar, ignite the stands.
Hey there, Vikings fans. You are listening to the Purple People podcast. We just left Terminus. Me and Adam Carlson and Kyle Smith. That was a Walking Dead reference.
Oh, absolutely.
Love the show. Love the show.
Big fan right here.
Mm-hmm.
Undead Walking.
Insert plug.
I figure if I mention it quietly, people will be like, what was that? I have to Google that. But please do Google Undead Walking and go there. But in the meantime, you're here to listen to the Purple People podcast, episode number 121, The Chronicles of Riddick. I don't know if you enjoy those pitch black movies. A lot of people love that Vin Diesel. Studley or...
I am a big Walking Dead fan. I am also a big Chronicles of Riddick fan.
Did you know that Vin Diesel is a huge nerd? He loves playing Dungeons and Dragons. He actually has the name of the first Dungeons and Dragons character that he made tattooed on him.
Did not know about the tattoo, but I did know he was a pretty big nerd. This is the first episode of the Vin Diesel podcast.
Yes, we're starting the Vin Diesel podcast now.
Oh, touche.
Let's go right into the quick hits, though, because I love quick hits, and I only have 3, and 2 of them are kind of poopy, but let's go anyway, why not? Lots of transactions made on the 7th. McLeod Bethel Thompson was waived from the practice squad.
Oh, McLeod.
Oh, he had to go.
It's
all about Chandler Harnish now.
He didn't have to go.
He had to go.
Okay, maybe he did.
And wide receiver, Dante Foster. Defensive back, Pierre Warren. And, of course, Mr. Irrelevant, Chandler Harnish returned to the practice squad.
He ain't irrelevant no more. He's a Viking.
That's right. I tweeted him as soon as he came back to the team, the first time he came to the team. I always like those welcome tweets. Sadly, I had to send a welcome tweet to a former member of the Vikings, Mr. Jeff Bacca, who I'm a big fan of. I had to welcome him to the Cincinnati Bengals. It's a classy organization.
Mm-hmm.
Hope things work out well for him there.
I am glad to see him get another shot. I wish he was getting another shot in Minnesota. We could sure use his services right about now.
I don't know. The offensive line for Minnesota is pretty solid.
Oh, yeah. Solid's a leaky faucet.
Now,
yeah, until a stiff breeze comes by.
Yeah.
I haven't had the opportunity to see this, but I've heard that there's a Subway commercial starring Anthony Barr.
Indeed,
This is true.
Indeed there is.
He's just standing there, arms crossed, looking like a BA, and he's in between Robert Griffin and I believe it's Justin Tuck.
All right. And that's about it?
They yammer back and forth, and then he steals a Subway sandwich from both of them, and they make a comment about rookies or something. And
Nice.
it's pretty good.
From what I understand, that he got a unlimited sandwich card from that and gave it to his mom.
Oh, good grief. If I had an unlimited Subway card, that is all I would eat.
Well, think about all the delicious things you can get at Subway. You can get sandwiches, you can get flatbreads, you can get pizzas, you can get breakfast, you can get... I think I already said salads, but you can get salads.
Welcome to the Purple People podcast, sponsored by Subway. Eat crap.
You know what's sad, too, is most of that stuff in there, I tried to look at it. Half the stuff you can't eat if you want to be like Jared, because it's still terrible for you. But, damn it tastes good.
Mm-hmm.
That's what all the
Subway.
extra mayo is for. You just squirt that all over it.
Honey mustard right here. And Subway, if you do somehow get a hold of this podcast, you can send me a gift card for Christmas, and we'll call it even.
That'd be fantastic. And my last quick hit is that the Vikings have added $500,000 to the stadium construction fund. They're going to put another elevator into the new stadium, as well as upgrade the skywalk, bring in some mobile beverage carts, and more. So when you're at the new stadium and you see a beverage cart wheel on by and you're able to buy something, you can thank the Wilfs for that.
There we go. Way to fork out a little bit of change that you guys have.
Hey,
A little bit.
you can tell they come from a background that involves real estate and construction and whatnot. Like, we're going to have a top-notch stadium here in Minnesota. We really are.
I cannot wait. I will be there all the way from Virginia. I will be there 2 years from now at some point.
I've only made plans to meet up with someone from the podcast one time, and they ditched me.
Ooh.
Hey. It wasn't intentional.
Anybody hear that dime that just dropped right there? It was in the distance, but
But hey, what can you do? At least I got to see a Vikings win, and that was good enough.
well, if you don't care, I've got one more right in front of me, and it's gonna hopefully lead into a conversation we might have. As you guys know, we've been kind of quiet here on the Purple People podcast about Adrian Peterson.
Yes.
But Monday, a Montgomery County, Texas judge refused to recuse himself in Adrian Peterson's felony child abuse case, rejecting the prosecutor's request to step aside because of what they termed bias and a various recent legal disagreement. I'm going to read this kind of verbatim. We'll go through really fast. The decision on Monday by Judge Kelly Case, he's been on the Montgomery County 9th District Court, comes after Case was said to have referred to the lead attorney for each side as media whores, end quote. Yeah, it's pretty good for you to say, but he's a judge. He can say whatever he wants, I guess.
Right.
A hearing to weigh the prosecutor's argument for replacing Case as presiding judge in the Peterson case has been scheduled for tomorrow, which is Wednesday. However, the assistant county district attorney, Phil Grant, if you guys wanted to know who that was, said Peterson's lead attorney, Mr. Rusty Harden, is scheduled to be out of town Wednesday, and the hearing may be rescheduled yet again. So, yeah, they're trying any and everything to get this case going or to get a new judge, to get anything in Adrian's favor, which nothing is going in his favor right now. If you guys have been living under a rock, we'll touch on that tonight, but things are not looking good for Mr.
Before we do
Adrian.
the game recap, why don't we just do the Adrian Peterson stuff? Let's just do it.
Okay.
All right.
Right.
I'm going to go right into this. We're going to do a debate session here, and as soon as we get done, I'm going to post on the Facebook page. I want your guys' opinions and thoughts, and we'll lead into next week. Maybe we'll talk about it and hit on it quickly. But the question was brought to me. A lot of people in the Virginia area like to give me a lot of crap when the Vikings don't do good. They never like to come around when we're doing good or doing fine. You know, after the win with Atlanta, I got no phone calls and texts, but you can bet after Thursday night's debacle in Green Bay and the massacre that happened in Minnesota yesterday, I got a lot of people who wanted to contact me.
Oh, sure.
But I got an interesting question asked the other day. They said, Vic got a second chance. Ray Lewis, that whole thing happened. He ended up coming back, and he got to go out in style. And so, what do you think is going to happen to Adrian? And we'll just go ahead and hit on it. We all know about the child abuse pending case with Adrian Peterson.
Now, you keep saying abuse, but I didn't think it was abuse.
I'm looking right now. Let me look back on this. Felony child abuse case. That's what he's being charged with. We don't know if he's going to be found guilty or not, but he is definitely pleading not guilty. So that's his defense. He's made a firm stance and has been quoted saying he will plead not guilty.
I thought it was neglect.
I'm looking right here from ESPN.com. Refused to recuse himself Monday in Adrian Peterson's felony child abuse case.
Weird.
I'll go. Yeah, I've heard the neglect thing too. I'm not sure what they're going to classify it as. I'm pretty sure they're going with abuse, but nonetheless, he took a switch, which is a small limb. I wouldn't say a limb. Probably going to be from 1.5 to 3 feet in length at the most. Just a small branch from a tree. I'm from the South. I am very familiar with this, but there were markings left on his 4-year-old son. This came to surface after a very long time ago. This happened, I believe, back in April or May. The mother and Adrian exchanged texts about it. The reason this came about was because the doctor in the case took the photos and went public with it. Now, this I have read twice and made me very upset because I get it, you're looking for the child's safety, but I understand why people come forward with photos because I'm sure under the table there was some money involved. There was a push somewhere. This could be a national thing. This is Adrian Peterson we're talking about. And of course, we all know this came out the same week the Ray Rice situation was going on where he got released from Baltimore. My question to all the fans is, and I'll give my opinion on this, after all this happened this past week, it had been found that Adrian Peterson I think he was. I don't know if he was on house arrest or what the deal in terms were his probation or whatever.
He was
but
on bond from prison or from jail. Sorry.
as part of his probation, then he was not allowed to partake in any drugs, and he had to submit to a drug test. On the way to taking his urine test, he told someone, "I might have smoked a little weed." Kudos to you for being honest, Adrian, but keeping your mouth shut would have been the best thing to do in this situation. You've already got a negative light in front of you.
I can see
Go
the
ahead.
other side of that too. I mean, it's better for him to admit it to the officer rather than have it come out in the test, because that way it can be seen as him being more cooperative and honest. So maybe it works out for him in the end, maybe it doesn't, but I can understand why Peterson would consider taking that route.
I can see that side of it too. I'm not, and please, for all the people listening, don't think that I'm some kind of corrupt, evil genius or anything. But if you guys watch baseball at all, I'm trying to think. Is Ryan Braun? Yeah, he plays for the Brewers, I believe.
You're speaking Spanish to me now.
Okay, well, this happened over the last year. He got a lot of things dropped in his case because he was taking performance-enhancing drugs that are not allowed in baseball. But he got them dropped based on the I guess the sample handling wasn't taken care of correctly. There's all kinds of ways to beat the system is what I'm trying to get to.
Oh,
I don't
is
know
he
if
the guy that
Adrian-
owns the sandwich franchise with Aaron Rodgers?
Yes, that douche canoe. Sorry.
That's what I know him for.
Yeah, he plays baseball. He's really good. He lied to the whole entire world and then came back and tried to take back his lie. It was a terrible thing. But you could get this kind of thing, I wouldn't say taken care of, but if there's any faultiness there, that could have been dropped. And all we would have been worried about was the outcome of this trial for felony child abuse. My question is that I was asked is, do you think Adrian Peterson will play for the Vikings again? And I'm just going to throw it out there. There's a good possibility Adrian doesn't play football ever again for any team.
True.
My personal bias on this, to save face and to see, just to kind of move on from the bruise and the broken bone that is Adrian Peterson, I don't believe he's ever going to play for the Minnesota Vikings again. And it pains me to say that. I don't want that to be the truth, but if we could sum all this up really quickly, I don't want to take forever to talk about this. My personal opinion, the Vikings are going to have to cut their losses, and this is just going to be a hand that we didn't win, and we're going to have to move on from the 28 era.
Well, let's be honest here. Even if Adrian Peterson comes out of this and he ends up with a plea, a lesser charge, some fines, community service, whatever, he is looking at a 4-game suspension for the drug use. He's looking for at least 6 games, and that's if they do the smallest level of abuse according to the CBA.
Which is probably not what they're going to get after all the crap that's happened with the NFL and their bad image right now.
Especially since it involves a child. We could be looking at Adrian already being suspended for an entire season after he's eligible to return. And no team is going to want to pay to put him on their roster for a year when they know he will not be active. Especially when he's entering, there were already questions about his age and his durability and other things. Now when you add in not only the social stigma with what happened, but the fact that he's going to probably be sitting out a year on suspension, things are looking bad for Adrian Peterson ever playing in the NFL ever again.
I don't want it to be what it is, but it's just that term that he said a lot over his career in interviews. It is what it is. I believe in my heart, I thought he would play for us for a very long time. I don't think he would have finished his career here just because we gave him so much money. I do believe he's Superman, but his age was always going to be in question. Now with what you said, I believe he could have went down as the greatest running back ever. I wanted to see him break the all-time rushing yards. That is not going to happen now, and I'm willing to bet a paycheck on that or two, just from what you said alone. Let's think about it. If we get this rushed through and he somehow gets a hearing and a verdict before the season's over with, that means he wouldn't be back until the following season, until maybe the last 3 or 4 games, if that.
Right.
At the earliest. He'll be pushing 31. He'll be 31 by then. He'll be ready to play and back, which we all saw after his ACL season, he can come back and ship shape no problem. And you know what? Some people would argue, hey, he hasn't played for a year. He doesn't have that wear and tear. He's had time to rest. But the image and the money, who's going to be willing to go after him?
Right.
Because I don't think we are. I really hate to say it, but I think we've seen Adrian Peterson's last game, and that was with the St. Louis Rams at an away game this year. And it wasn't that good.
And if you've been watching the Vikings lately, you've been seeing them really molding and developing Jerick McKinnon. It's been kind of slow going over the past couple weeks, but McKinnon has started to out-touch Asiata.
Yes.
And he is someone that they could find hope in for the future. So maybe that's what they're going to look at, but for now, I don't see Adrian Peterson being any part of the team's plans.
I have a scenario, and I'll keep mine here fairly short. And I'm not going to say that it is a likely scenario and this will what happened, but it is something that, it's a possibility that I would throw out there. I would say that if he can come away with this relatively clean, meaning that they find him not guilty and he's able to argue some sort of time served for the for him currently being away from the team towards his punishment, to where you're looking at him coming back and he only has to do maybe a 4-game suspension because they can argue time served. I think either way, he's done in Minnesota. But if you're looking at maybe a 4-game suspension, a 6-game suspension with time served, and you're the Denver Broncos, and you've got Peyton Manning as your quarterback, and you compare him maybe 4 games, maybe 6 games down the line with Adrian Peterson, are you willing to take that risk? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes, you are, and you are willing to take the potential negative fan reaction that's going to come with it, because there will be one. But you guys know as well as I do, if Adrian can come back and he looks like Adrian Peterson and he busts off a 200-yard game for a couple touchdowns paired with Peyton Manning, those negative comments go away really, really quickly. So that is a scenario.
I have a question for you, though, Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
How would you feel if that situation was different, though, if we were talking about Ray Rice? If Ray Rice served his stuff and he came back, would you want the Vikings to pick him up and play for the Vikings if they were contenders?
That's interesting. I hadn't really thought about that.
Because I think that a lot of us fans have those purple-colored goggles still, to where we still see this shred of who Adrian Peterson was, this charitable guy who always just seemed like such a class act and could do almost nothing wrong. But that image has been so just twisted and turned and broken over the past, 2 months.
Couple months.
That it's hard to really see anything else.
I would say, not that you want to ever weigh crimes differently, because crimes are crimes, but Ray Rice punched his future wife, in the elevator in the face and then drug her out. To me, that seems considerably worse than what Adrian did, even though what Adrian did is horribly wrong and I don't want to stand up for him. I feel like Adrian's is something that you can come back from.
It's the lesser of two evils.
Thank you very much.
I'm not sure I agree with that either, but that's all subjective. It is. And you're going to get
They're both obviously terrible, but I think if you got to look at one might be a 10 on the scale versus an 8. I mean, they're both not acceptable. Let's put that disclaimer out there for anybody who's listening now.
Yeah.
We're not condoning that you beat your child until they have marks on them.
No.
Regardless of whether that's where you were raised.
And don't punch your spouse in the face.
Yeah, don't do that. I'm surprised the cops didn't get into that quicker.
Given the option between those two, I'm going to go with option C and say I'll take Todd Gurley signing a couple autographs for some cash any day of the week over those two guys.
The next Manziel, Todd Gurley.
Oh.
Fantastic.
I know you don't.
So side note, back to what you said about Denver. Just an interesting fact today. My ESPN app went on. You want to talk about Adrian if he gets away with the minimum? Mr. Stephen Ridley went down for the Patriots. I don't think anybody's going to come back faster than AP did from an ACL, MCL injury because he tore his today. Could you imagine him in a New England Patriots uniform playing with Tom Brady? They need a running game. I mean, there are scenarios out there.
There are
People
plenty of
will
teams that
take
can
him.
use his services, that's for sure. But whether they're willing to take on the financial obligation as well as the stigma that comes with bringing a player that has this sort of just black cloud around them.
Who are we kidding? Oakland will take him.
Oakland's already got enough running backs.
They
How
don't-
many more do they need?
It's Oakland. They'll take.
Are they
They'll
going to have
take him.
like the over 30 running back team there?
Yes.
All right, but let's tone this down a bit, and I know that we're not exactly on a high right now, but let's talk about some more low stuff, and let's talk about the game between the Vikings and the Lions.
Let's get high and talk about the Vikings.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so game ball and donkey.
Mr. West.
Oh,
All right,
you're gonna put the unprepared one up first.
throwing them right in the fire there.
Oh, okay. I totally forgot to write stuff down. Game ball. Let's go with Charles Johnson, just because who the hell's Charles Johnson before this game? Well, he was our receiver that we signed from Cleveland a couple weeks ago, and hey,
Green Bay, too. He went from Green Bay to Cleveland to Minnesota.
well, there you go, Adam. You have the Charles Johnson Wikipedia page memorized.
Hey, I did a draft profile on that guy. I remember him.
Well, there you go. So I'm going to give mine to him because I love seeing young guys step up to the plate. And, hey, it's only 2 catches for 22 yards. Came late. A couple of them were late in the game, but I like seeing him at least make his name known on the team.
He's got good size and speed. He's a guy that might be able to develop into something.
Mm-hmm.
You never know. Kyle Smith, how about your game ball?
Oh, man. There's
Tough.
really not a lot to say here. I'm going to be broad again. I'm going to give it to our line, our D line, not the offensive line. Don't worry, coming back to that. But I loved watching Anthony Barr get after it. I'm pretty sure, I think at the end of the day, either he was number 1 or number 2 with tackles. He had a couple of assists. We had some sacks. I don't think he got one. But I'm going to. Our secondary wasn't too bad either. The defensive unit as a whole, even though I don't want to be too generic and give it to them, because God, even without Calvin Johnson, they still didn't look terrible against us. I'm going to give it to Anthony Barr, but I'm going to give it to the D line. Our D line looked pretty darn good.
All right. I would like to give my game ball to Rose Murphy. If you're unfamiliar with Rose Murphy, that's the mother of Teddy Bridgewater, who is a breast cancer survivor. She was given the honor of blowing the big Vikings horn before the game and just kicking things off, and congratulations to her on that, and congratulations to her son on becoming a starting quarterback, and hopefully things will get a little easier for him on the way out here.
She's a superstar, isn't she? She's just awesome.
She is. She's a rock star.
Yeah, I love Teddy Bridgewater's. I cannot speak. But his mom is really cool. That's my point.
Absolutely. And I'll go forth with my donkey then. It's been a while since I've had him on here, so I can put him on here. Because last week I chose Charlie Johnson, so this week I can go back to Matt Khalil. I'm just going to alternate between those 2 spots on the left side of the line pretty much every week. Matt Khalil, his effort was pretty embarrassing in this game. As a blindside protector, he failed on way too many plays. And Teddy Bridgewater's a guy that he has a lot of pocket awareness. But when you're dealing with pressure coming from all around you, and you know that pressure's always coming for you from the left, you're pretty boned.
Very well put.
And how about you guys? Got some donkeys?
Yeah, I'm gonna stick on the same unit that you are. And I'm gonna go with Dracula himself, Vladimir Duquesne. This dude has had, a penalty a game called against him in his starts. He doesn't... I feel like other than John Sullivan, you could pick anyone on that line and be like, hey, it's them, because they're just not playing well as a whole. But I don't like Vlad.
I don't think Phil Lodeholt is actually playing that badly.
No, Phil, I'm glad you said that. Phil gets a lot of hate, and I do like Phil, and I do think he is playing decent enough.
But I just don't understand why Ducasse is in there over Joe Berger. I still don't get that.
Me neither. That just mystifies me that they got him in.
But hey, what can you do?
Because then, like I said before, I don't understand why you have Joe Berger on the roster if you don't feel that he can play the guard position. If he's just viewed as a backup center, I think that's a waste of a roster spot. But,
I agree. And we got one more donkey to go.
So funny because you guys I had a split donkey this week, and it was to both Matt Khalil and Vladimir Ducasse. Thank you.
Nice.
Anytime, and yes, I will take this full frontal. The 3 interceptions, let's point to Teddy. But when your quarterback gets sacked 8 freaking times in the game, get out of here. Get out of here. All right?
And that's just sacks. That's not pressures or hurries.
Mm-hmm.
That was you stole the words right out of my mouth. Not only was he on his butt 8 times, but he was getting knocked around. And I'm sorry, he's got a great slogan, great under major pressure. But major pressure, I'm thinking it's like clutch throws or stepping into the pocket. Not the pocket collapses and I'm getting Ndamukong Suh in my face every other play. It was the O-line helped us lose the game a lot Sunday. The defense stepped up. Only 17 points. I know Detroit didn't have Reggie Bush and Calvin Johnson, but you held the Lions after their first score. I think they only scored. Let me see my sheets here. They only scored another touchdown in the fourth quarter. So you held them the second and the third quarter without a touchdown. They had a lot of 3 and outs too. So you didn't give Teddy an opportunity to be Teddy. And when he did, yes, he did muff that up one time on the touchdown that was intercepted in the red zone, which was
right.
Unlike him. But I have to give this to the O-line. I was really scared that Teddy was going to get hurt Sunday, and we shouldn't have to worry about that.
What I loved was during Teddy Bridgewater's presser, he said that I was watching that play and I made a mistake. I thought the safety was off further, and it's something that I can take and learn from. And we've heard that from other quarterbacks, but I never really believed it.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. When Teddy says that, I actually believe that Teddy believes and understands I made a mistake. When Ponder said that is what Ponder was coached up to say.
And let's be honest here, Teddy Bridgewater's 3 interceptions. The one was the bad mistake on a forced throw to Cordero Patterson, trying to get him involved in the end zone. Mm-hmm. The other 2 were both tipped balls. One bounced off of the hands of, I believe, an offensive lineman. Or, no, it was a defensive lineman for the Lions, and right straight up in the air. And the other one bounced out of the hands of Matt Asiata. And like Teddy Bridgewater said in the game, it's not that he doesn't want to take responsibility for those 2 interceptions, but there's nothing you can do when that happens.
I like that. I like that he doesn't get too overly concerned about the 2 fluke plays. Like, worry about, him making the bad read trying to fit it in on the double coverage there to Patterson. Like, correct that one, but understand that sometimes, hey, they're going to get tipped, they're going to get dropped. He can't really do anything about that.
But with how far the offensive line was getting pushed back into the pocket, it was pretty easy for those Lions defensive players to get their hands up and knock around balls and disrupt traffic. So not too tough for that.
I have 3 things. The first, let's give credit where credit's due. I don't know if it's Jim Caldwell that did this or if they just finally figured it out, but Detroit's D-line and defense as a whole is nasty. So give credit all day. They did their job and they did it well. Number 2, I don't know. I was going to lean towards this if it wasn't the offensive line for my donkey, but Greg Jennings, I need you to step up and earn the money that we're paying you because there were a couple of drop balls yesterday that shouldn't have been. You need to step up when nobody else is catching balls. We shouldn't have – who's it? Johnson was his last name. What's his first name?
Charles Johnson.
Yeah, Charles Johnson.
Charles. I wanted to say Charlie, but maybe get confused. Yeah, we shouldn't be talking about that guy making the catches, but hey, kudos that he is. Way to step up.
Well, let's put things in a little bit of perspective too, because Greg Jennings was the Vikings' leading receiver as a wide receiver. Now, he did get 33 yards. He caught 3 of his 6 targets. Meanwhile, Cordero Patterson was targeted 8 times and had 2 catches. And that is just a team trying to force the ball into somebody. So when we're talking about players dropping passes and mistakes happening, that's where we're talking about. And the only guy that I saw consistently catch a football was Chase Ford.
Chase Ford's making the most of his opportunity with Kyle Rudolph down. I like
Well,
that.
that and Jarek McKinnon, of course, who was 6 for 6 on his targets and led the team in receiving with 42 yards as a running back.
Jarek is a beast. I like him.
That was my next point.
Mhm.
Right ahead, sir.
No. Oh, no, yeah. That was the same as my last point, too. He's getting kudos from Coach Zimmer, which was a great presser to hear yesterday, talking about people being late and getting fined. He's not going to put up with this crap, and it's making – he probably shouldn't have brought that to light for, everybody's bad news to be floating around out there.
I don't like the way the media – I don't like the way the media is running with that right now. That's a little annoying. But I am kind of glad that he did call people out, in public like that. I wish the media would shut up a little bit more about it. They're making, I think, more of a bigger deal out of it than they need to. But, hey, those guys got to have something to write about.
Now, the major problem came from Matt Asiata, who didn't get involved in any part of the game. He was targeted twice in the passing game. The one was a pass that bounced off his hands. And was just a complete mess. The other he caught for 18 yards, but on the ground was where he really struggled. He only had 2 carries compared to Jarek McKinnon's 11, where Matt Asiata averaged negative 2.5 yards per rush. And Jarek McKinnon averaged 3.6. A little bit of a difference there.
A little bit. Maybe we can send him to the Raiders.
But
that's so bad to talk about too. It's so inconsistent from the games where he dominates and has 2 or 3 touchdowns and then has negative yards. Man, I don't know.
Hey, that's what Coach Zimmer was talking about in his press conference, how this team is really hard to get a beat on. And I agree with him completely. There are some weeks where you see guys play at a high level, and then it's just gone the following week. And I don't understand what happens with that either, but...
To be fair, this was a rookie quarterback playing with a really banged-up team, an exceptionally struggling offensive line against the number 1 defense in the NFL.
Definitely. All valid points.
What else bothers me, too, is the games that we've won and we've had a good running game. And I'm looking here on my handy-dandy Vikings app. Between our 2 starting running backs, we have 13 attempts total. That's total. You could split them up. Give them 10 apiece. Just try to break 20. Teddy threw the ball 37 times. I don't know if we've established this or not. We have good weapons, but I don't know if they just don't seem to be in sync. Haven't figured it out yet. Patterson, I'm talking to you. I mean, let's look at the Green Bay game for 2 seconds. Ponders should have never thrown the ball as many times as he did ever in his career. But we've established that we like to run the football, and you only hand the ball off 13 times. It confuses me. It seems to be a little trend every week that we're talking about here. Norv Turner, you got me spinning with question marks, sir. I don't know.
Now, the Lions
I get that their D-line...
Go ahead, sir.
I get that their D-line is pretty amazing, but don't stick to something that's your secondary option. I would venture to say that we are a run-first team. Don't switch it up just because you might be a little bit intimidated by the line. If anything, try it out. If it doesn't work, then switch. But 13 attempts between 2 running backs that is my question mark for the night.
See, the Lions' offense was more balanced. Matthew Stafford had 33 attempts, and the Lions ran the ball 28 times. And, of course, one of them was a quarterback scramble. But Stafford did only throw 1 touchdown pass against this Vikings secondary, which was one thing that I was worried about. I was worried about Matt Stafford being able to find Golden Tate matched up against Captain Munnerlyn, who's another player that's been struggling real bad on the team. Instead, we saw, as I named the show after, Theo Riddick become the game's leading receiver with 75 yards and a touchdown. Of course, the touchdown coming on that 41-yard run into the end zone after the catch. But overall, Detroit's offense did not do as well as many expected, and I know that a lot of that has to do with the absence of both Kelvin Johnson and Reggie Bush. But don't let that fool you. This team still has plenty of talent and can get things done. Just because they're missing 2 players, that doesn't mean that they're a pushover at all.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, the signing of Matt Prater for the Lions looked kind of wishy-washy at times. It's hard in a small time period for a holder and a kicker to get things together, as we saw with Blair Walsh and Jeff Locke when they first got together. But things seem to be getting better for Walsh and Locke, and I'm sure they will for Detroit's kicking unit as well. Once again, the Lions were not allowed a kick return attempt. Jeremy Ross was not able to take one out of the end zone, although he did have 4 punt returns and averaged 7.8 yards on those returns. Overall, the Vikings defensively had a pretty solid game. We saw that Robert Blanton ended the game with 5 tackles, as well as Gerald Hodges. I'm talking solo tackles here. And Jasper Brinkley with 6, who led the team.
Hitman, I like Jasper Brinkley. Glad he's back.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
good stuff. The player that defended the most passes for the Vikings was Gerald Hodges, surprisingly. I believe that is because the Lions didn't take a lot of shots down the field because they really didn't have to.
Mm-hmm. Josh Robinson has been quietly having a really good year for Minnesota. I think that's...
He's a top 5 cornerback according to Pro Football Focus.
Yep, whatever Mike Zimmer is doing with him, it's working.
And while we're talking about the Vikings defense, 3rd down efficiency, the Lions converted 1 of their 13 third down chances.
Guys, this is our bright spot. This is our takeaway from this game, is that I think our defense, you can see where this defense is going. And we're playing with some plug-and-play pieces out there, some guys that are, I'm not confident are going to be part of the long-term solution for this team. So the more that they get that situated and set personnel-wise, and the longer these guys get in the scheme, we're going to have a really good defense in Minnesota. It's coming.
I was just gonna jump on that too. I'm looking at the overall total from the year so far. Anthony Barr and Jasper Brinkley are tied at 36 combined tackles. Mm-hmm. They both are 11 behind Robert Blanton. He has 47 so far. I mean, shout out to him and Josh Robinson. I just want to give that out there too. Whatever Zimmer's doing with these individual players that maybe we thought last year, maybe we're stumbling, we had question marks. He's bringing out the best in some people. I know defensively, like you just said, we're heading in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
That is your one positive takeaway from this game, that's for sure.
And I don't want to knock the offense, but let's be realistic here, guys. We are a run-first team without Adrian Peterson. We were built around him, so that puts them at a distinct disadvantage. It's hard telling where this offense would be if they had Adrian and Kyle Rudolph out there. You really don't know. So it's tough to judge that side of the ball right now.
And a healthy Cordero Patterson and all that. There's so many parts of this team that are not operating efficiently, are out right now. And really, the effort that we're seeing isn't as good as we want it to be, but the talent is there.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Definitely.
very well said.
All right, so that's the overall impression I had from the game. If you guys got anything else you want to add, feel free.
I want to see more from Xavier Rhodes. I think we all do. And I also want to see more from our 2 split ends out there, Everson Griffin in particular, because Brian Robinson is at the point in his career. We know what Brian is and is not. Everson, I think we were all expecting more from him, and I'm not seeing it on a consistent enough basis. I want to see him get home and get to the quarterback. And it's unfair because we're probably all comparing him to a future Hall of Famer in Jared Allen, but he's still got to get home and get to that quarterback more than what he's doing.
I've actually got to give Everson Griffin a little pat on the back because, to me, in my opinion, he's outplaying Brian Robinson, who is a veteran and can play at a high level. And Everson Griffin, to me, although he hasn't been getting to the quarterback, to pull down the sacks as much as we would like as fans. He's actually getting some pressure, and to me, he is on his way to earning this contract if he can keep playing and develop as a starter.
I hope so. I really hope so. We can't afford to miss on him.
I have nothing for the game. I just want to give a shout out to one of our fans who called me out. Thank you, Adam, for pointing that out. Adam posted about 9-10 hours ago. It's the official Vikings bandwagon form. If anybody wants to come be a Vikings fan right now just because, we'll give you a big fat hug because it's really tough right now, as it seems to be every year. But I'm looking here, Mr. Darren Roach, which I'm calling you out because, yes, I used to be on the dark side for a very long time. Way to call me out on the Facebook page, sir. Touche. Just want to say thank you for that. But I don't think anybody's going to be coming over on the bandwagon. We'll have our full copies of those. I don't think anybody's jumping over here. But segue, let's jump into – we've got another tough task on Sunday. The Buffalo Bills. I watched that game because it was the TV right beside the Vikings and the Lions. Kyle Orton looks pretty damn good with the Bills.
Yeah,
and we've got a tall glass coming Sunday, and they got a great defense too. So we got our work cut out for us Sunday.
Yeah, Kyle Orton was a major upgrade over E.J. Manuel. It's sad that the Vikings didn't get to play the Buffalo Bills when they were led by E.J. Manuel because that would have been a much easier game in my opinion. But you can't take anything away from this Buffalo Bills team. They've got things going right with that wide receiver Sammy Watkins leading their team in receiving. And their running game is always on point. They have plenty of guys that can get it done. Especially action Fred Jackson. People got to love him.
I do.
You know where the Fred zone is? It's anywhere on the field.
It's the Fred zone.
So watch out for that.
Per pun basis every week. Told you guys this.
Yep.
But overall, you can't sleep on this Buffalo Bills team. They are a team that is better than their record says. So take that as a grain of salt if you want. But people sometimes forget that the Buffalo Bills have been bad for so long that they're going to build up and be good. And with 3-3, they're second in the AFC East behind the only team in the division that has beaten the Minnesota Vikings from their division, the New England Patriots.
I hate you, Tom.
Overall, there's not a whole lot to preview in this game because, let's be honest, we need to see more from this Vikings offense that has been having to adjust to life without Adrian Peterson after game planning with him the whole season. A lot of adjustments are being made, and I'm sure that they'll go into Buffalo with some sort of game plan to attack this Buffalo defense. Overall, I'm excited to see this game. But I've also heard that it's the same announcing crew that announced last week's game, so I'm not so keen on that.
Yes, love it.
I may have to find some other way to watch it that doesn't involve those two jackwagons, but what can you do?
On the positive side, with those guys announcing, maybe we'll get to see Randall Cunningham back for the Vikings next week. You never know who's liable to show up.
It's true. Oh, they butchered everything, and if you watch the game, you know exactly what we're talking about.
I tell people, I just suggest mute your TV, turn on K-Fan, listen to Paul Allen.
Luckily for me, the bar I was at was showcasing the Bills and the Pats, so my volume was off. But hey, maybe we'll get lucky again and have, who was it 2 weeks ago, Rondé Barber? Maybe we'll get him the week after. That'd be great.
Hey, you might have been even luckier if they'd actually turned the TV off during the game. No, that's just mean. No matter what, I'm going to be watching my Vikings, but it's been rough the last 2 weeks. I could use the little pick-me-up here against the Bills.
Such is life being a Vikings fan, but you know what? We suck it up. We'll be there Sunday supporting them, and who knows? Maybe we can run into Buffalo and sneak out a win. It's possible.
And with that, I'd like to thank everyone for listening and remind them to stay classy, Minnesota.